the session. Perry said, here in the Boston area, we've gotten a little snow, but not enough to cause problems. That is a win. That's awesome. I'm happy to hear that. All right, everyone. So I'm going to start sharing my screen. Could I just get a thumbs up that you're able to see my screen? Awesome. Thanks, Perry. Let's see. Okay, yes. Awesome. Thanks, everyone. Okay. So as you all know, this session is sponsored by Mentra. We'll be going down an agenda. So we are actually, and then most of y'all should have gotten a notification from Luma, but we have some exciting news. So we'll be talking about some body doubling. These are misordered, but we'll get into burnout first, and then we'll go into body doubling together. In the meantime, this is a great opportunity, y'all, for you to get to know other neurodivergent folks. And what I mean by that is I suggest dropping in your special interests, hyperfixation, passion in the chat. Just get us a little neurodivergent up in here. I would love to hear from y'all. Some of you on this call have already reached out to me directly, but if you have any feedback, if there's anything that you want to see from us over here at Mentra, drop it in the chat, send me an email directly. We have a Discord community. Feel free to reach out to us on there as well. My user is just like the Mentra regular, and I'm typically active in there, so y'all are able to kind of chime in and ask any questions that you might have. In terms of upcoming webinar topics, we have a few exciting December speakers coming out. So next Monday, we're going to have Megan from Sensory Bridges. She developed a product that is specifically for neurodivergent folks. And essentially what it does is every time the watch can sense that you are getting distracted or your voice volume may be getting a little bit higher, it'll notify you on the watch so that you can kind of self-regulate and avoid oftentimes that like shame of being like, of other folks chiming in and saying like, can you lower your voice? I know for me in particular, that's been a hot topic. So we're excited to bring her on. And then next Tuesday, we'll be going live across all of Mentra's social media platforms, as well as over here on Zoom. And we'll be doing our product demo. So that will be our official launch date. If you want to join those sessions, they'll be led by our CEO and founder, Jillica. If you haven't met her, she's come on to do a few of these burnout sessions with her or with us, but she's absolutely lovely. And she's incredibly connected to this mission of expanding access and resources for us. And then we're also working, we'll talk about this a little bit later, but we're working with Honeywell, Amazon, and Microsoft directly. And in fact, we are expanding our partnership with Microsoft. So if there are particular roles that you're excited about, send those my way and we can make sure that a recruiter sees your resume. I'm just going to come into the chat real quick. What's the Discord? Good question. I will drop in the Discord when we get into the body doubling, and then I would love to have you on there. Perry chiming in about his Wikipedia editing. Love to hear it. James, hyperfixation, art, and creativity, and your passion is voice. Shout out to Jillica. Yes, she's lovely. And Peter said, looking for something in cybersecurity field, ADHD with ability to focus when needed. All right, well, we'll all keep an eye out for you, Peter. Thank you for dropping that in. And so I wanted to also offer, I know we went through that sort of 0 to 10, but I wanted to also offer emojis if that made us feel a little bit more comfortable. So here are a few ones that we'll come back to in this session. But wanted to share with you all that we officially will be launching on Tuesday. So we're still waiting on App Store approval. That's kind of the biggest piece, but we are anticipating that everything will be launched, good to go on Tuesday. And either way, we will be live here to share with you all what the app looks like, why we're excited about sharing it, and all of the fun stuff in between. We'll be integrating user experience and any feedback that's given to us. So for those of us that are on this call, you know how tuned in we are to your feedback. That's something that's really important to us. So just keep it coming. There's never too much. For those of you that don't know me, for most of us, I think we do here on this call, but my name is Steph. I'm the head of delivery over here at Mentra. So I manage our community and I also manage our clients. I'm a dyslexic ADHDer with lots of passion for community spaces. And I have quite a few special interests, one of those being birds. So I use birds to unlock other passions in my life. And I'm also an event host. So I host events in New York City around neurodivergent community and then also bird walks. And if you want to find me across platforms, I am that quirky bird girl. So That's a little about me. But let's get into some of our conversation around burnout. Ryan said, I always say incorporate your disability into your career. I put that in quotes because I see a disability as a different ability. Yes, I love to hear that. Exactly, exactly. Incorporating it in can be incredibly supportive for us. So, getting into burnout and how it impacts us, I wanted to share a little bit about how burnout impacts the full scope. So, this slide in particular references neurotypicals. I promise I won't reference them again, but I wanted to just lay the groundwork a little bit. So, because these are still things that us as neurodivergent folks, we still experience. So, emotional exhaustion, reduced sense of accomplishment, cognitive overload and decreased capacity. So that could be inability to take on tasks that a few months ago felt would be easy for you to take on. That's definitely, or these are three paradigms that I myself have experienced, and y'all feel free to drop in the chat if you relate to any one of these. We're going to get into a few more in the next slide that are specific to neurodivergent folks. So all of us here on this call today. That impact of burnout is measured even further. We probably already know this, but I think it's important to call it out even further. So, because of masking, because of our sensory strain, so things like particular lighting, having to be in office environments that don't necessarily work for you, constant compensation. So you're trying to meet your peers where they're at, but your brain doesn't necessarily work in the same way that theirs does. So you're like having to adjust constantly, and a part of that is within masking, and then executive function overload. And I'll get into a few more details as to how these impact us specifically, but Perry said, I've definitely experienced that before. The biggest thing for me is thinking, why am I doing this? Oh, that's a really good question and a good reminder to come back to. Because ultimately, if we're doing all of these or making all of these adjustments to our self, there is a tax that's taken on us. So having that question or that higher level question, Perry, is really great. I'm glad that you're able to do that. So these are a few experiences that myself I've experienced, but also other folks in the neurodivergent community have experienced. So I'll just run down them. If anyone resonates with any of these, feel free to drop them into the chat. But extreme fatigue, so feeling absolutely exhausted, waking up bright and early in the morning and already feeling tired, overwhelmed about the work that might come up, motivation collapse, something that maybe once made you feel motivated, excited about your day to day, maybe doesn't fuel in that way anymore. Shame spirals, which are essentially, in my experience, they have a lot to do with my own self-worth. So when I tell myself I'm not capable, I'm not able, I'm not all of these, I think they would be called adjectives, but all these words around who I am thinking that I am, that leads into self-doubt, loss of interest, loss of passions. It can feel incredibly defeating, like you're inching forward on something that doesn't necessarily seem like it's moving. It can cause task paralysis, which means that you're not able to get to tasks in a way that you traditionally would be able to. It can lead to sensory overload, brain fog, loneliness, emotional flooding or numbing, loss of sense of self, and shutdowns. And one key one that I really, really, really want to highlight for those of us that might just be in those early stages of burnout, because I've found that this can be just an incredible sign of like how you can kind of put your foot in the door and hopefully stop that burnout, is when you start noticing that loss of interest, when things that traditionally made you happy maybe aren't making you as happy anymore. So for me, if I notice that I am avoiding going outside to spend time with birds or bird watching, if I am telling myself all of these reasons why I can't do that, if I'm too busy, I've got this going on, that going on, all of those like reasons that I'm giving myself are keeping me away from my sense of joy and further contributing to the burnout. So stopping that can be really, really helpful, and reminding yourself why it's important. Simon, hi, welcome in. Happy you're here. Loss of passion, loss of interest are big ones. Yeah, mental health is number one, 100%. These are great call outs, everyone. James says, I got very tired physically. No matter what I was thinking, the world just kept popping in my head, and I kept saying was, I am tired. Based on this card, I might be closer to a 3. That's really good, like recognition that you're able to see that you were sort of finding that you were really, really tired. And I hope that using some of the tools that we're going to walk through today, hopefully we can help each other a little bit. Ryan said, if you have accomplished one goal in a day, you have been productive. Live one day at a time. You are not in competition with anyone, not even yourself. Oh, I love these reminders, you guys. These are awesome. So these are really great ways. But I wanted to add in a note, kind of what the chat has been echoing throughout this call, but I wanted to make it especially clear that your brain isn't failing, and it's not a personal flaw to be experiencing burnout. A lot of us will experience burnout through a few different windows in our life, and it may, like I said, like it might come up, but it's not a personal flaw and it's not something about you that is contributing to that. We have to keep in mind that we are living in a society and a world that is not optimized for our brains. Most often, most spaces are occupied by neurotypical folks. And so that means we're constantly adjusting ourselves, which means we're especially more prone to burnout. So, what I want to share is that we all just need to give ourselves a little bit of grace and understanding that we are different and it's okay that those differences impact us, however, they may impact us. We talked about this a little bit on our last burnout session, but I just want to make a few of the phases clear before we get into a few exercises that we're going to do to hopefully shake ourselves out of burnout a little bit. Because yes, I have exercises for us. So there is burnout brewing. So those are the initial stages that everyone was kind of talking about in the chat, where we are really focused on our interests, but you might notice that like some of that is weaning. Your passions don't feel as integrated into who you are. You stop expressing those passions as outwardly. So you're feeling pressure to mask, to pass, to survive. Maybe you're starting to feel invisible, unseen, or erased. This can cause sleep disruption, anxiety, frustration, lost in routine. A lot of those things that just already impact us as neurodivergent folks. When burnout starts brewing, it impacts us even more. And what is so important to recognize in that shame spiral that I was talking about is like when you see this, when you notice these signs, telling yourself that it is, again, not a personal flaw. It is societal. It is things greater than us today, like where we are at, that are causing this, and removing ourselves completely from that equation can be really, really helpful for reminding ourselves that it's not our fault that we are where we're at and that we can figure out a way to meet the world for where we are at. That's my hope. So, in terms of active burnout, masking starts to feel unbearable and it doesn't feel safe for you to unmask. So this can result in feeling stuck. I can speak to that a little bit, like that feeling that you have in your chest where you're maybe like not moving forward, which leads to shutdowns. It can lead to meltdowns and it can lead to emotional numbness. So I actually want to speak a little bit more so to the like shame and fear and like feeling that you might have of being like uncovered as someone who might be masking. And those are all like fueling each other. And then hopefully, as you come to this like active burnout or burnout brewing, what we'll see ideally is moving into more of a reclaiming of your sense of self. So your energy starts trickling back. Those passions and interests that we talked about, you start feeling those more present in your life. Maybe even you start integrating conversations when you're meeting new people. Maybe someone like Perry who's like, hey, I really love Wikipedia. Did you know that you can find this on Wikipedia? And you just start integrating more of that, more of you into your conversations. Those are all really, really, really good signs. And I want to remind ourselves that like not every individual is going to respond to those conversations of our passions and interests in the way that we deserve them to respond. Some people don't know how to handle passions and intense interests. I mean, as an influencer and talking about birds all the time, I get that from people quite a bit. So remind yourself that regardless of the response, you put yourself out there and you did something good by sharing that piece of you. And hopefully you start trusting your environment a little bit more. Oftentimes, I will say this reclaiming self does come with an environmental change. And so for me in the past, that has meant that I needed to leave a job that was in corporate America that I literally dreamed about getting. But the second I got there, I realized, oh, actually, this is not working at all for my brain. And I had to completely pivot and change my like sense of self and what it was that I was looking for. So, but once I made those changes and integrated them in, I started recognizing that there wasn't something wrong with me. It was the environment. And so that allowed me to heal even more and reconnect with interests, community. This is a huge community space for all of us to kind of get together and talk about our passions. But once you start finding yourself leaning into that a little bit more, these are all really, really good signs to keep going, regardless of, the external response. Keep going. In addition to that, something that you might need as you start to come out of this burnout period is scripts to help you keep and set those boundaries. You might have learned through burnout that, sitting at a computer for 8 hours isn't something that works for you. I am one of those individuals. I can only work in 5 to 6 hour sprints, and I need that time broken out into two periods where I have a large window in the middle of the day so that I can get sunlight. It's really important to me. And if I don't have that, I know that my brain tells me that I am a failure and I can't do things and I hit task paralysis and I can't move. So being able to support yourself when someone does ask about your boundaries or does ask about your needs can be really, really helpful. And if anyone wants to hear more about that, I would be happy to schedule for us a boundary session. We've done that in the past, and we can absolutely bring that up again. And Steph briefly mentioned this. Passions can change over time. I've had several different passions over my lifetime that has affected my career, but that's okay. No one is your boss in that sense that you must stick to one passion. That's a really good point. Hyperfixations can shift and move and evolve, and you're allowed to pick up something new and completely try it. And also, you're allowed to fail at it. It's okay. James says looking for a job and not feeling seen is an easy feeling to feel. Oof, yes, that is so real. And I'm sure so many folks here on this call relate to that. It is so easy. I mean, oftentimes, especially with tools integrated into AI, you're not getting that human touch that you so deeply deserve. Because let's be clear, like, everyone on this call deserves a better job hunt experience than what we are experiencing today. My hope is that as we like inch forward, we start to catch the holes that are I was always called them like potholes that are not giving us that access that we deserve. So James, I'm sorry to hear that. And hopefully we're inching a little bit closer to more support. Did you know that Wikipedia's admin corp had been slowly shrinking for a while and the community is worried about it? I did not know that, but that is really important. I wonder why that might be. And I see their funding requests all the time on Wikipedia. James says allowing your
Sorry, I couldn't help but interrupt you, but point out the Wikipedia community strongly dislikes the amount of fundraising Wikipedia the foundation does, and that's a major source of controversy.
Honestly, I think that even like users might resonate with that just because it does, yeah. It would be interesting if they pivoted approaches to see what that might look like. But James also said allowing yourself to be bored can help to rest your brain and nervous system. Yes, 100%. So things like meditation. We had someone on this call last week that was sharing their experience with meditation. I think that could be a really great tool for us to lean into a little bit. I did an acupuncture session this morning. So there are a few tools that we can use to help support ourselves. But yeah, James, that's absolutely correct. Tara said, do people around you ask? I've experienced that maybe twice. Love to do a sessions around boundaries and language for setting them at some point. For me in particular, they do ask. And I think it's just because I'm a little bit more outwardly focused on sharing the information, or maybe people feel a little bit more comfortable in asking, but I have had mostly neurodivergent folks ask me how the framing works for that or for upholding boundaries. So, but yeah, I'd be happy to talk about that a little bit more. So we'll get that on the calendar for y'all. Simon says that is my biggest problem is failing. I have 5,000 courses that I want to complete, but I can't because I am scared I'm going to fail. Ooh, is this a neurodivergent like struggle and conversation I've had with so many folks around the fear of failure? That is another thing that we could absolutely talk about in session here with y'all. But I think what I could speak to is I've always found like something like a timeline might help me in breaking down specific like tasks and what's expected of me, but not just stopping there. Taking it a little bit of a step further and making a connection to a time when I've already completed that one task. So, say, for example, I have to sit down and learn about Python. Okay, I asked myself, when was a time that I sat down and I learned something completely new? Okay, I learned a foreign language. All right, so I already proved to myself that I can do this. I just need to put it on a timeline, chunk it out, and not, and make sure that I don't feel so overwhelmed and committed to what the ending might look like too has been really, really important. But those are really good call out, Simon. And Ryan said exactly, one must fail in order to succeed. No one will succeed on the first try every time. This is a really good point, and I actually want to make an analogy because a lot of folks talk about like putting yourself out there, right? Like posting online, for example, posting on LinkedIn, posting on TikTok. I encourage you all, if you want to see a journey of failure, go through either my LinkedIn or your favorite influencer, anyone that you see online, scroll all the way down to their old posts. You'll see they have posts where there's one like, two likes, three downvotes. Like it, we all experience failure to a certain degree. And sharing that can be really helpful too. And I've had videos that I've put out that have gotten 0 likes, that have gotten 3 views. It happens. And ultimately, I took those learnings from that particular video and I applied it to other videos, which allows my content to just hopefully improve and continue to improve. But some of that is like rejection sensitivity too, that we just have to be mindful of, especially us like ADHD, ADHDers, and really neurodivergent folks as a whole, keeping in mind that we might struggle with rejection sensitivity and how we can manage that when or if it does come can be really, really helpful in anticipating. So yeah, no one will succeed. Oh, but hi, Cassio, welcome in. Happy you're here. Small steps is the best way to avoid failure. To avoid the fear of failure. Yeah, also accept failure as something necessary to go further is liberating. Yes, it can be incredibly liberating because at that point, if you become comfortable with the sensation of failure, there's nothing you can't do. Like you can do everything because then there's no barrier standing in your way that is yourself. It's just the external focus around you and curating the environment so that you can be as successful as you need to be. Ray Dalio, you need to know this guy as well. Oh, okay, we've got a recommendation in the chat. Ryan said, I would love to have a job where it's a night shift. My brain works way better at night rather than during the day. Yes, exactly. My biggest ideas too come when I'm laying in bed. I have a 3 a.m. power hour usually if I wake up in the middle of the night. And that'll be the time when I'm able to like get through the most amount of work. But that's always been interesting in terms of communicating with employers. UX and UI often talk about iterations rather than final products. Think of each attempt as a yes, Joan, that is such a good recommendation. Thank you so much for chiming that in. Another really good version of that is like thinking of it as version history. So you could do version 1, version 2. I have 270 versions of different videos that I've put out of this like one specific angle. So following that can really teach you how to be comfortable. And oh, Cassio dropped in a photo. Thank you so much. The work principle, we'll have to integrate that. Python, yes, Python is awesome. All right, I'm gonna have to grab those screenshots, Cassio. Thanks for sending them along. One point I want to make really clear is that burnout is less about overwork in the context of us neurodivergent folks and more about the effects of forced conformity. For us, healing is about unmasking safety, finding solidarity, and building life around environments that don't demand erasure. So finding the people who fill our cup, who tell us, hey, you're kind of weird, just like me, or you're kind of different. We think kind of differently. And kind of like normalizing those community spaces, whether they be virtual, like in the context of here, we just did, and James commented on one of our posts, but we just did a neurodivergent happy hour. So getting in spaces where you can be your like most authentic self without having to wear that mask. And it takes time. Even when I first came to neurodivergent spaces, I was still masking because it's hard to turn that off when you're so used to constantly having to mask. So it is a process, but just as you're learning to unmask and share more of yourself and be a little bit more vulnerable, again, coming back to the grace piece, just try to remind yourself that you're doing the right thing regardless of the response of the party that you are engaging with. All right, so now I want to do a few exercises. We have three here, so I want to do all of them. So the first one is going to be more of like stretching. And if the stretch that we do doesn't necessarily fit your stretching needs, that's okay. You can do a different stretch, any stretch that works for you. But a few ADHD friendly ones include body doubling. So if you've been on our calls here, you know that that's one that I personally love and really believe in. Dopamine first task sequencing. So if you're not familiar with this, basically what it means is writing out all of your tasks. And I use a book, it's called a productivity journal, and I'll write it all down. And then I will rate each one on which I want to do first, which makes me feel most excited. And then I'll break that one up in between the other tasks that I don't want to do. And that really helps. The other thing is using a timer like this one I have right here. Hopefully it's not blocking it out. But basically what you do is you turn it and it'll give you a timer. So right now it's showing 5 minutes, showing 15 minutes for larger tasks. You can do up to 30, 45. This is just on Amazon, but that can be really helpful. And you can set it to 5 minutes or 15 minutes, however long the task is that you're doing. And then when it goes off, you just get up, you shake it out, kind of like stimming. You just like get some movement in. Maybe you do some yoga. It can be micro even. You could go for, I've been doing like 1 mile a day runs. That might be a little inaccessible for some folks, but finding the movement that works for you, meeting yourself where you're at. So let's see, mental stretching. I love that. Okay, that's interesting. I haven't heard that. Could you add a few more details on what that might look like? I want to do an exercise though, and we'll do it for at least the next minute, but we're just going to do some shakeouts. So basically what that means is just like, I just started doing it as I was talking, but you're going to like, for your jaw, you're just going to go up, down, left, right, and you're going to do it all around. If you want to do your shoulders, you're just going to do some circles and then some forward just for a minute. So I'm going to set a timer and then we will just do get some energy out of us. And then we'll do the fun one, which is my favorite because I love stimming. So we'll do a stim break. All right. So you just open and close your jaw. A lot of us hold tension in our jaw. So if you're able to and you can move your jaw to the left and then to the right, and it might crack. That's okay. And sometimes it might be helpful to massage like the corners of your face and just open and close while you're doing that. And then you can go up into your ears right here and just open and close. And you can massage when your mouth is open. You can massage up right in between your ear. That sometimes helps with jaw pain if you hold tension. You can go down underneath your jaw and take your thumb and just run a line. You can also do this with the side of your hand. You can do it hands-free even. All right, there we go. So that was a little bit of a shakeout, some stretching. I've been getting into breath work. Oh, Simon, yes, I love breath work. We're actually hoping to bring on someone that can do neurodivergent informed breath work together. Fingers crossed on being able to get them in here with us, but that's one of the things that we're kind of working. Cassia said, I have been doing this jaw exercise intuitively. Also the dog shaking too. I don't think I've heard of the dog shaking. That sounds exciting. And yeah. So fingers crossed we're able to get them in. But all right, so let's do some autism friendly shakeouts. So a few of these things can include sensory regulation kits. So stim toys. I usually like always have one in front of me. I guess I don't have one here right now, but something that can like something like this that you can just like flick on. Sometimes they have more like robust toys, but just having something that can keep your hands moving so that your mind can keep focus. Oftentimes, what we need as neurodivergent folks is movement within the focus. And I think that that's lost on neurotypicals. So the next is predictable routines. So being able to have systems that are in place that work for you. I will say sometimes it takes time to figure out what works for you. It takes grace. There have been so many times where I've thought something would work for me Turns out it didn't. And I had to be like, okay, girl, you were wrong. And here's how we adjust. And sometimes that can be a little defeating or frustrating, but just remind yourself as much as you can that this is a learning process and you're learning with so many other neurodivergent folks here on this call, even. So, transitional anchors. So, a lot of autistic folks struggle with transitions. So, having something that really helps you ease into that transition. So, for me, I love Megan Thee Stallion. Listening to a Megan Thee Stallion song really gets me into transition mode and makes me be a little kinder to myself too, honestly. So let's do an exercise. I'm not going to play any music, but for those of us that have not stimmed before, has anyone ever, I'm sorry, has anyone never stimmed before? Shake like a wet dog. Love that. That's actually a good emphasis for what we'll be doing. I have an infinity cube fidget toy. Oh, I love the infinity cube fidget toys. A squish ball. Yeah. Okay. All right, Perry.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah, yeah, right? Oh my gosh. So many great tools. Hopefully those are things that in the future we can send out to y'all here from Mentra. But so if you're not familiar with stimming, oftentimes it looks different for different people. For me, it looks like this. Just moving, shaking it out. Sometimes it looks like moving your hands up and down. Some people like to stim with their full body. So you'll see people like jumping up and down like this. That can be really good, really helpful. But just like getting the movement out, I'm going to stand up. You're welcome to do the same if you want to. And I'm going to set a 2-minute timer. And then we're going to kind of shake it out, kind of like Casio said in the chat here. How about we say our favorite music? Love that. Bring me to life. I like a variety. That's awesome. Really great chat, y'all. Okay. All right. So I'm going to put a 2-minute timer on and let's just move it out. And you just move your legs, your arms. You can shake as much as you want to. Just keep
Okay.
moving. Some
Like
people,
this.
autistic people love to spin. So if you've ever seen like autistic people on those like spinning swings, you can recreate that. I love spinning, so I'm just gonna do some of that. You just keep moving, shake it all out. You can think about something you want to let go of. Like, for example, you had a hard week, or someone said something that was rude, and you don't feel like it was meant for you. Get rid of it, shake it out. You don't need it. All that matters is what you think of yourself. And as long as you think that you're awesome, you're doing amazing things, you're inching towards your goals, whatever they may be, you're just moving. Some people like to do like specific movements.
Makes you want to dance.
Yeah, right? It's like kind of dancing, right?
Yeah. I mean, my daughter does this sort of stuff, but
Yeah, it's like really helpful.
yeah.
Some people stim with their mouth, and you're welcome to do that as well for those of us that are on mute. So sometimes I'll do like, that feels really good. Some people will say the same thing over and over again. That's also stimming. So say you have like a favorite line in a movie, say it over and over, say it 1,000 times if you need to. No one's listening. Okay, all right, Mary. That was our 2 minutes. How does everyone feel?
I think you're a lot more athletic than I am.
Anything house music? This is awesome, y'all. Yeah, cool. Yeah. I tend to pace. Oh, I love pacing. One thing to keep in mind, pacing can sometimes bring on those like tunnel thoughts, those spiral thoughts. So if you are pacing, add in some movement. Just throw in like a little hand, like just up and down and up and down. That can really help you. Make sure that you're staying outside of that like shame spiral. Shake it off is a good one. Oh, I love that. Lo-fi or hip hop, humming and making noises. Yes. I just sat because I'm tired and having a migraine. Oh, good golly, I'm sorry you're having a migraine. Well, I appreciate you participating in a way that works for you. That really helps. Yeah, I tend to tap my heels repeatedly. Yes. Oh my gosh, that is another really, really good one. A lot of people do that. That sometimes does lead to the same like spiral. So as long as it helps you, good. But if it's helpful to add in more movement, to shake it out up and down, feel free to add that in. Simon says, I reward for pacing because the amount of times I pace a day. Oh, okay. I feel like my watch always is like keeping track of all the pacing that I'm doing. All right. So now getting into like universal neurodivergent tools after completing those 2 exercises. And I want y'all to think as I'm going down this list, think about that emotional check-in that we did at the start of our call together, our time together. where are you at now? Are you still feeling like a 0? Still feeling like a 5, a 3, an 11? How are we feeling?
I feel great.
Oh, hey, that's reassuring, everyone. 2. Okay, a 1 is a win, Tara. We'll take it. A 1 is a win. I hope it continues itching up. I think I'm feeling slightly more energetic before than, but not a lot. Yeah, like a lot of these things or these tools are meant to help us in a way that works for us in that moment. But as you use them more, the impact that it has on you will increase. You'll get more comfortable. You'll let go in different ways. Maybe you'll move in ways that you're like, whoa, I just did that. So hopefully it becomes. Oh, Cassio, thank you so much for joining. Hope to see you on the next one. Still a 3, 7, moved up to a 7, a bit more warmed up. Yeah, if this section is recorded, I will come back here. This work is amazing. Oh, thank you so much, Cassio. Yes, we are recording it, so it'll be uploaded, I'm hoping, within the next week on YouTube. So I'll be sending that along as soon as we have it uploaded. Our editing teams are a little overloaded right now, but they'll be getting to it as soon as they.
And good luck. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Cassio. Thanks for joining us. All right, so getting into some of those universal neurodivergent tools, we talked about task chunking. So putting those particular tasks that do work for you or do excite you together in one bucket. Stim breaks or stimming, we just did that a few minutes ago. Safe shutdown time, so a time where, kind of like James was saying a little bit earlier, where you can just kind of be bored and not have it mean anything or not even feel bad. I think that's the one thing, or one of the things that I even recall from growing up, is that like parents telling you like, oh, you can't be bored, don't be bored. But it is actually a good thing to be a little bored. Just a little bit. And then 2-minute activation rules. So for me, these involve like looking in the mirror and being like, you can do this, like you've got this, what, like don't doubt yourself. Like having those conversations are really, really, really helpful for me, like breaking that shame cycle and breaking through enough to like actually complete something new and hopefully not feel that fear of failure. All right. So if you're ever in a place where you might be struggling or you need to communicate that to someone that you love, I wanted to drop in this prompt that you can share with them. This can be really helpful in doing work that might feel a little bit hard to do, which is opening up and telling someone that you're struggling a little bit. So if you ever want or need access to this prompt, we're going to send along the deck after this call. Well, actually, probably a week, but you can also reach out to me at any point in time. I'm going to drop in my email and you can ask for, or you can reach out for the prompt and I'll send it over your way. All right. So we don't have as much time as we usually do to get into body doubling, but I still want to do a little bit of that using the tools that we just learned together. So there are a few options of things that you can do here. Of course, you don't have to do any of these. You could do something that you really want to do or work on. But these are a few options that you could do. So a few minutes of journaling or logging progress. And what I mean by journaling is maybe writing down like what you're proud of yourself for, what you did that made you feel excited about what you're doing, what you're building. You could take one concrete action. So this is applying to a role, refining your resume. You could consume one piece of inspiring career content. So this is finding someone who maybe has that like radical joy a little bit. Might be interesting. You could check in with a friend, a mentor, or a LinkedIn connection. I really recommend that one. Or you could just rest. Just take a moment to rest and kind of be in a little bit of safe community. You could also work on a vision board. That's another really good one. All right, so I'm going to pause us here for about 10 minutes, and then we're going to come back together and share a little bit of what we worked on and why it might have helped us. And that can be done in the chat. It can be done off mic, whichever we prefer. And then we'll close out this afternoon together. So I'm going to go ahead and come on mute. If anyone has any questions, drop it in the chat. I'll still be here, but let's do some body doubling together, y'all. All right, everyone. I just wanted to check in before we close out together. How was that body doubling? I know it was a little brief, but does anyone have anything they want to share? I know we got a few comments in the chat that I want to highlight. Let's go through those. James applied for a mentorship in spring of 2026 at Titmouse and Animation Studio. I put for desire primary role character design and for secondary role art director. That is amazing, James. Let us know as soon as you hear back. We are rooting for you. Ryan wrote a book on self-empowerment, which is so needed right now. I feel like that's part of what this session is all about, right? That's awesome. So cool. And then Peter bought your first house recently. That is amazing. We are so proud of you. So exciting. Tara got a little house cleaning done. Whoop whoop. Exciting, everyone. Perry said I responded to a bunch of code feedback in Forge. I don't know what that means. That sounds awesome though. It sounds like it takes a lot of skill, and we're really happy to hear that. Everyone, thank you so much for joining this session. We'll continue to host these events throughout the end of the year. Like I said, next Monday we have Megan coming on, and then the week after that, or I believe 2 weeks after that, we have Nicole, who has a nonprofit here in New York City called Autistic Adults NYC. She'll be talking about how to build community in a way that is neurodivergent first, which is what we're all about over here. So thanks everyone so much for joining. I hope to see you at our future events and also on our event on Tuesday for the app drop. But if anyone has anything they want to chat through, as always, I am available. My email is again in the chat. So feel free to reach out, everyone. And I hope you have an amazing rest of your day and holidays if we don't see each other between now and then. Thanks, Steph. Have a great night. Yeah, everyone, have a good night. Thanks, everyone. Bye. Bye, everyone.